Pardon the interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. It has been a crazy trade deadline, Tony. What's the best trade you've ever made?
I'm Tony Kornheiser. I would say trading away Reale for a home studio. I mean, I love Reale. I didn't want to let him go.
Mean.
But, you know, I got to consider my family. You know what I mean? Isn't that what Kyrie says? You got to consider your family.
Picks?
So that's what I
get any picks or pick swaps? Any of that?
The Super Bowl is about 72 hours away, and pour some coffee because we're going straight through to kickoff with our great friend from Monday Night Football, the Hall of Fame quarterback, Troy Aikman. Wilbon, it makes me so happy. When Troy was on the show in the old days, he always wore a T-shirt, and he's wearing a T-shirt now. This is wonderful. Makes me happy.
Consistency.
Let me start with this question. Let me start with this. The last time that we saw Patrick Mahomes in a Super Bowl, he was running for his life. And the Eagles are very good at rushing the passer. How big a concern should this be for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, I think that's got to be the question for them going into the game as far as how they're going to protect Patrick Mahomes. I think looking at the game itself, both these defenses are capable of getting after the quarterback. And we know that Philadelphia is going to try to run the football. Kansas City, when they have committed to running the ball during the season, you can make a case that they've run the ball actually better than what Philadelphia has. But will Andy Reid, will they run the ball against this Eagles defense? I think they're going to have some balance, because otherwise it calls into question their ability to protect Patrick Mahomes, like you just said.
Troy, you did this a few times, this whole Super Bowl thing. Jalen Hurts, of course, is doing it for the first time. Let's put you in the Wayback Machine and hear what advice you might have going into a first Super Bowl for the Eagles quarterback.
Well, I know for me, I was just very mindful as far as how I was feeling, you know, how I was going to be able to handle the emotion of pregame warmups early in the game. I think as a quarterback, the people that handle the football, it's why I've always enjoyed watching the Super Bowl. You know, how do they handle the adrenaline and the emotion early in this game? And it'll show when they're throwing the football. And I know my first start and my first Super Bowl, it affected me. The emotion of it, the adrenaline, as much as you want to say, hey, it's just like any other game, it's not. And you know that it's not. Although Jalen Hurts knows it's not right now, and he's especially going to know it's not when he takes the field on Sunday evening. So I think the key for him is just be patient and just ease your way into this, and you know, just be patient and don't worry about incompletions or struggles. Know that eventually this game will slow down for him, just like it does every other week and in any other game in the regular season.
Troy, when you watch these games now, and the later in the season we get in Super Bowl playoff games as well, are you jealous of the freedom that offensive players have to be what they want to and can be without having defenses just rain doom like you had to face in your career?
Yeah, it's a different game than the one that I played. There's no question. And I think that what it's allowed quarterbacks to do is it's given them the confidence, at least, knowing that they're not going to get hit hard, that they're able to stand in the pocket with confidence and wait till the last minute. And it puts the defenses in a real bind, as we've seen. They're not real sure exactly how to even attack the quarterback. The other part of that is I think that quarterbacks are more willing to try to fit the ball into places within the coverage than what we were able to, because these receivers just aren't getting blown up across the middle. So for those two reasons, clearly the defenses are hamstrung in what they're able to do. The rules keep coming out that are in favor of the offenses. And the great quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and like Jalen Hurts and the others that we look at across the league, you know, they've been able to take advantage of that. So every generation, things are different than what they were before. It was different for me than what it was for the quarterbacks of the 70s. But right now, it's kind of a golden era to be a quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. But before Tony hits you up for a pick, I want to ask you real quick. People don't know, perhaps. The Mavericks are in the news. I know you catch a game now and then. How are you on this whole Kyrie Irving addition to Luka? You feeling good about that Dallas team?
Well, he's a heck of a player, as we know, and he had an awesome debut last night. He's got the town excited. So it's a pretty nice time. It reminds me, it's a little bit like the San Francisco 49ers or the Packers. When you go from Joe Montana to then Steve Young, or you go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers, we go from Dirk Nowitzki to Luka Doncic, and now we bring in Kyrie Irving. So it's a fun time. I'm excited about this season for the Mavs, and everybody in Dallas is now a Mavs fan. They're basketball fans now in Dallas.
Yeah, Wilbon thinks everybody in the world is a basketball fan, and he would ask you 5 NBA questions if he had the opportunity. I will get you out of here on this.
I know Troy knows.
Which way are you leaning on this one? Which way?
I think they're just so evenly matched, Tony, quite honestly. I will say that, we didn't get a chance to see these teams covering Monday Night Football the way that I did when I was working on the other network, and got a chance to see these teams a lot. When we had Philadelphia early in the season, it was obvious the amount of time that Jalen Hurts had put in the offseason, and I thought that they were the most complete team that I had seen throughout the year. And that's saying a lot, because San Francisco, of course, really good. Kansas City, of course, good as well, and that's why they're in the Super Bowl. But I'd have to say, if I was picking a team right now, I'd probably lean towards Philadelphia. But there's a lot that goes into winning a football game in the Super Bowl. And Jimmy Johnson, as he always said, it's not who makes the most big plays, it's who makes the fewest bad plays. And I think that's going to hold true in this game this week.
Thank you, Troy. It's such a pleasure to see you again. Been a while.
Troy,
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, UConn does something that hasn't happened in the 26th birthday, Saquon Barkley. Both Barkley and Daniel Jones are free agents now, so the Giants will likely negotiate a contract with one and franchise the other. Barkley was quoted recently as saying he isn't trying to reset the market. Other running backs are with the free agent market: Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, the NFL's leading rusher; Tony Pollard of the Cowboys. Barkley was the number 2 overall pick out of Penn State in 2018 and was the AP Offensive Rookie of the Year for the Giants. Torn ACL in 2020, missed 14 games that season, 4 more in 2021, but he played 16 games this past season and was 4th in rush attempts, 295, and 4th in rushing yards, 1,312.
Tony, I was glad to see him back from the injuries. Glad to see him play a full season. He is not a reset the market guy, but he's a guy, it seems to me, that the New York Giants need to keep if they want to sort of move seamlessly up another level, another notch from just making the playoffs.
Agreed. Happy anniversary, Rasheed Wallace. Well, we got a 3rd rounder for reality and a studio. I mean, I thought that was good. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Nets start over, the Lakers send away Russell Westbrook, and Troy Aikman joins us for 5 good minutes. But we begin today with a massive realignment in the NBA, and we will concentrate first on Kevin Durant going to Phoenix in the middle of the night. Wilbon, what does getting Durant do for your son's title chances?
Tony, it wasn't that late. Didn't I text you? I tried to wake you up. It was about 11 o'clock out here, maybe a quarter past, when the news comes on and Woj comes on saying it is a breaking news logo. And behind me, as I sit here in the desert, you might not notice that there's no fault lines running underneath us. None. This is not Southern California. This is Arizona. But yet, Tony, it feels like the earth moved. It feels like there was a rumbling when the news came down that Kevin Durant will be playing here in Arizona. It's the biggest trade for the Suns since Charles Barkley was acquired by the Suns like 31, 32 years ago. I guess 32 years ago. And anyway, they traded, Jerry Colangelo traded a ham sandwich. He got Charles Barkley, and they went to the finals for only the 2nd time in club history. Now Kevin Durant comes. It's an owner who walked in and in 12 hours said, I'm making a difference. We're going for it now, right now. And so you assemble Kevin Durant, DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, presto. You are now in Vegas's head as they declare you at least the number 2 team in terms of odds to win the NBA championship. It ought to be, on paper, a great team with unselfish people, no egomaniacs like the one who was dealt to Dallas, no guys who don't want to play and don't want to play with each other. That's what it looks like early. We got to wait a couple of weeks, but Tony, I can't wait to see it.
All right, I'm going to be declarative here, and if I'm wrong down the road, I will own the fact that I am wrong. But right here, right now, the Phoenix Suns should win the NBA championship. Right here, right now, they're the best team in the league. They just got, when you get Kevin Durant, okay, you're getting a guy, he's not going to have any chemistry problems. He showed this in Golden State. He is not a slacker. He is not a ball hog. He doesn't have a particular agenda. I think he's the best player in basketball, but I'll listen to people who want to say it's Doncic or Jokic or Antetokounmpo, but he's in there, and certainly he has been the best player in basketball. He joins a team, as you say, with a crafty veteran point guard who has no ego issues, with a really great scorer off the ball, and a good big man. I don't know what else you need. What I'm saying to you, Mike, is that nobody's got what Phoenix got. Now, there are potential problems here. Durant gets hurt a lot. Booker gets hurt a lot. Chris Paul gets hurt all the time, especially in the playoffs, and Ayton doesn't talk to anybody. Those are real-world problems. But if they are healthy in May and June, they should win this thing, Mike. This is not an experiment. The Nets were an experiment. This is adding a great player to an established team.
And remember real quickly that Durant, and people say, wait a minute, Durant doesn't own this and it. Durant doesn't have to do more when he comes here, Tony, because when he went to Golden State, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala handled anything else. They handled the culture of the situation. You've got Paul and Booker here already. They're not looking to bring Kevin Durant in to do something he's never done. He has played with star players. He knows how to do it. And he may be, again, the brightest star himself by the time we get to the playoffs. Again, Tone, one of the great players of all time. Can't wait to see it. Can't wait. The story isn't just the team Durant is joining here in the desert, but the one he's leaving along I-95. The Nets now have none of the big three they started last season with. Durant's in Phoenix, Kyrie's in Dallas. James Harden, of course, is in Philly. Tony, how are you going to remember the Nets' attempt at fielding a super team?
Yeah, I'm going to remember it as a big swing, giant swing, and a giant miss, and as a cautionary tale. They put these three guys together, and they played a total of 16 games together. 16. They were 13-3 in those games, but they didn't play 97 games, right? They weren't out there. They won one playoff series. That's all that happened. I mean, here's actually how I look at this. That the owner of that team and the general manager of that team committed a sin of pride. They thought they could buy a championship instantly by assembling these great talents, and they didn't really vet the situation in the way they should have. Now, they couldn't have known that James Harden would get so fed up with it that in a calendar year he would say, get me out of here. And they couldn't have known that Kevin Durant would be hurt a lot. They should have suspected that something unsettling could have happened around Kyrie Irving, but they could not have known, Mike, that he would refuse to take the vaccine and wouldn't play in all of the home games. They couldn't have known all of that. But the circumstance that we see here is they reached for the sun and they got burned. It's the Icarus final solution, that it's all wax and feathers. And I'm not sure, Mike, that the owner and the general manager will have any chance to be good in that situation again.
Well, they might. They got all these players who can help. The question is, can they either lure a superstar, draft somebody who is sort of lower and becomes a star? That does happen in this league. But Tony, I agree with everything you said. But here's the one thing I don't understand. They should have anticipated Kyrie Irving being toxic because he's been that. They're not paying attention. He could have been in Cleveland. He didn't want to stay there with LeBron James. That would make me suspicious of you. We saw what he did in Boston. He lied. He was a fraud. That makes me suspicious of you. We saw his behavior in Brooklyn. Yeah. They could have gotten rid of him earlier, maybe gotten more. You should know that Kyrie Irving can't be counted on. You should know that. So I'm not giving a pass to anybody, executive, owner, teammate, whatever. You know what Kyrie Irving is. He's a great basketball player when he feels like it, which is not all the time. That's the deal.
No, you're right.
And that blew them up. And that's such a failure
blew up
for
that
this
team.
Group. Wow.
He blew up that team, and then he blew up the league. It started a chain reaction. We moved.
Yeah.
The Durant trade was the biggest move of the day, but we had others. Among them, the Lakers sent away Russell Westbrook and Patrick Beverley, your boy, and got back D'Angelo Russell and Mo Bamba. The Warriors traded away James Wiseman, but traded for Gary Payton II. The Sixers dealt away Matisse Thibault. The Grizzlies got shooter Luke Kennard. The Bucks landed Jay Crowder. And John Wall is gone from the Clippers, back on the Rockets, who will reportedly waive it. Wilbon, where do you want to start?
All right, Tony, I have some notes here because that thing struck me. The Lakers are better. The Los Angeles Lakers made themselves better. And I'm not going to sit up here and disparage Russ like a lot of people. They got D'Angelo Russell and they got Malik Beasley, who can do the things that LeBron James needs really good players to do on the floor. These aren't 10-day contract people. These aren't two-way guys. These are pros. They know how to play. D'Angelo Russell had to go away from Los Angeles and really sort of just learn how to grow up or just grow up. And now he's coming back. And Jared Pat Bev, Russell Westbrook, Thomas Bryant. I'm a little surprised they got rid of him. But I think the Lakers made themselves better. How much better? To make the playoffs better. Does it mean they're going to use these guys and vault into the top 5 in the West? No, it doesn't mean that. I think that the Grizzlies got better by getting Luke Kennard, who can really shoot it. I think the Golden State got better by getting Gary Payton, the second back, the guy they never should have let go. And letting Wiseman go, wow, what an admission. But every team makes mistakes in the draft, even that high up, even Golden State. So, Tony, those are some of my initial notes.
Yeah, I think the Lakers got better also. I think that they will have a chance to win because they'll actually make the playoffs. But you know who got much more better? Phoenix. And they're not going to be Phoenix. Okay, what the Lakers needed was Kyrie Irving. Dallas doesn't need Kyrie Irving. The Lakers needed Kyrie Irving. And short of getting him, there's a ceiling on them compared to these other teams. I want to take about 20 seconds to say this about Russell Westbrook. I lament that Russell Westbrook had a terrible time with the Lakers and that he had to go. I watched him in Washington. He comes to play every night and he wants to play every night. It may be his destiny, Mike, because he's going to go to the Hall of Fame, but it may be his destiny to be a big numbers producer on a mediocre team. So be it if that's it. But I admire the effort, and I find myself saying 19 years ago, Wallace was traded from Portland to Atlanta, played just one game with the Hawks before being moved to Detroit, where he was a pivotal part of the Pistons' 2004 NBA championship team, coached by my old camp counselor. Here's a fun fact about Sheed. Though he's a loud and proud Philadelphia native, he's been a Chiefs fan since early childhood. He told the Philadelphia Inquirer this week, quote, 1,000% Chiefs in this one, and added, when I got interested in football, nobody was cheering for Kansas City. Kansas City was trash. I said, that's my team, unquote. I'd love to watch the Super Bowl with Sheed, to hear him say, both teams played hard, my man. Both teams played hard.
Both teams played hard. He was a critical member of that team, Tony. And remember, the Washington Bullets had him drafted out of North Carolina, but I think traded him for Rod Strickland. There was a front line of Chris Webber, Rasheed Wallace, and Juwan Howard, and none of them were there very long.
Happy Trails UConn, the 4th-ranked Huskies, beaten last night by unranked Marquette, 59-52. Previously, Marquette had been 0-16 all-time against UConn. This loss, coupled with the loss last Sunday to number 1 South Carolina, gave UConn its first back-to-back losses since 1993. That's 30 years for you non-math majors. In those 30 years, UConn had been 75-0 after losses, which is honestly a mind-blowing number. UConn had gone 1,083 consecutive games without back-to-back losses. UConn coach Gino Auriemma talked about how his team, quote, had a mental checkout. He said, quote, I think mentally we were just drained.
It's possible. The fact that it never happened before tells me you don't have an off night like that. That's a wow for Gino and UConn. But you know what? South Carolina is the preeminent women's basketball program now. I know he didn't want to hear that, but that's the deal.
It's true. Big finish. Here we go. The Blues are reportedly trading Vladimir Tarasenko to the Rangers. Is that a good pickup?
Yeah, when you're number 6 in the conference and you're trying to get to the playoffs and you get a 3-time All-Star, 4-time All-Star, that's pretty good. Kyrie had 24-5 in his debut. Mavs beat the Clippers in L.A. Were you impressed?
Yeah, but he didn't play with Doncic. I'm waiting to see how they split the ball. Jaylen Brown left last night's win over the Sixers with a facial injury. Cause for concern?
Yes, the Celtics need to have him. I expect him to wear a mask and be out there fairly soon, I think. Yu Darvish and the Padres agreed to a 6-year, $108 million extension. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he was 16-8 last year with a 3.10 ERA, and maybe he can play shortstop like everybody else. Last one, Iowa at number 1 Purdue tonight. Who you got?
beat down. Beat down. No upset. Double-digit win for the Boilermakers.
We are out of time. We will try and do better the next time. And I'm Tony Kornheiser.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. And now, notice I'm picking the Purdue to win again, Tone. Here's SportsCenter.